divide, and conquer.
My former CEO, Alexander Nix, used to say that with 2 years planning and enough funding that you can nearly guarantee an election win.
Brittany Kaiser was the former business development director turned whistleblower for Cambridge Analytica. For people who may not be aware, Cambridge Analytica was the firm headed by Alexander Nix, who used psychographics and data to manipulate elections around the world, in countries like Ghana and Romania, through to being partly responsible for the victorious Brexit vote and the victory of Donald Trump in 2016. They swung elections all around the world, altering the national directions of many nations, one of which was the crucial 2015 election in Guyana. But up until now, it wasn't public knowledge what they did for that campaign. So this week, we sit down with Brittany Kaiser herself to go through how to buy an election, how to influence a country, and break open the details about Cambridge Analytica's work in Guyana and the rest of the Western world. She joins us today.
If you follow an elections playbook in terms of strategy and preparation, you can affect the behavior of voters the same in any country. Of course, obviously in democratically conducted elections where global elections monitors would say that the election was free and fair, then it's easier. If you are working in a country where politicians, political parties, high net worth individuals tend to actually intervene in elections and do not conduct them according to democratic principles, then it can obviously be harder because the normal playbook is that you would get voters to be interested in a candidate or not interested in an opposition candidate, and you get people to actually vote. But there are obviously quite a few places around the world that do not run elections that way and where dirty tricks are the main playbook.
So who would hire someone like Cambridge Analytica? Is it just nation states and governments, or could it just be, a businessman looking to curry favor with a particular government?
It's all of the above. The most common is that you try to engage with a political party directly, but a lot of times there are high net worth individuals, so business people, that will decide they support a particular candidate and they will hire an elections firm or a strategic communications firm or someone else with these types of skills in order to support a candidate externally from the official campaign. Of course, if there is somebody that is already in government and they would like to stay there, then sometimes government budgets end up getting used for these types of activities as well. I mean, you can see that right now with the Trump administration. They're trying to take up as much of the airwaves as possible, which is obviously a campaign tactic, but the money and strategy and staffing is coming from official government budgets at the moment.
So in your work and in your book, you speak very often about PsyOps. Can you explain what PsyOps are?
PsyOps stands for psychological operations. It's a military term that means that you conduct a strategy to use communications to affect hearts and minds. So psychological operations used by militaries and governments is a way of understanding the way that people think and therefore being able to affect their behavior through communications usually, but also field operations are involved in distributing those communications to the people.
So a lot of this work comes from data gathered both illegally and legally from people. So what sort of data did Cambridge Analytica collect on unsuspecting people?
When you are looking to understand as much as possible about somebody, and that's really what data collection is all about, you are trying to get a hold of every piece of information you possibly can. So these days, obviously, people walk around with spyware in their pockets. Some people call it smartphones, but I don't think there's anything smart about it for the person that's carrying it. It's just smart for all of the companies that have installed their spyware on that device and therefore can track everything that you do, from your live location to what data you're producing in apps, who you're talking to, all of your contacts, your photos, your videos, what you're searching for, what you're writing. All of this data is possible to be collected. And then outside of your own device, all of your credit card swipes, where you go on vacation, what you do with your family, how often you vote. This is all data that can be collected and bought and sold and traded to tons of different companies around the world. And by tons, I mean, tens of thousands of companies do this as their main breadwinning. Their business is to collect and sell and trade your data in order to give people insights about you. And that could be as benign as a company just trying to sell you a new brand of toothpaste, or it could be quite a lot darker than that when it starts to get political.
And what can we learn from that kind of data?
If you start to look at people's behavioral data, you can start to understand, for instance, how staunch they are in their beliefs. So brand advertisers call this, you're either brand loyal or you're a switcher, which means that you could be persuaded to try something new because you're not always going to purchase the exact same thing. In politics, you can tell if somebody is a strong supporter of a certain party or candidate, or very staunch on a certain issue, or can they be persuaded to change their mind on that candidate or that issue? And that's the most important thing that you use data for, to figure out people's weightability. It's different in every place, but normally you can find at least 20 to 30% of the population that can be persuaded to do something than they did in the last election or in their last purchase. And you spend the majority of your budget on these people because it's going to take too much money and too much time to convince somebody that is very stalwart in their beliefs to change their mind. But if somebody hasn't made up their mind yet, or isn't very far to the left or very far to the right or brand loyal, then you can spend your money, a smaller amount of your money at least, talking to them about why someone else better or why the opposition brand or candidate isn't for them. And you'll be a lot more successful in your impact, or have, it sounds kind of dark putting it this way, but you'll have a higher ROI, a return on your investment for your political ad spend.